Again, as we set out, just if we haven't already, continuing to just connect with our pure motivation, our joy, our appreciation, renunciation thoughts, reflecting on the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards what's true and reliable, which is the beautiful supreme teachings of the Buddha Shakyamuni and Guru Padmasambhava that we're so fortunate to have met in this life. And then truly expanding that, connecting with the precious bodhicitta, thinking that this time now and every moment of our lives and all our lives can just only bring fruits of benefit for all beings. And then connecting with, again, our closeness feeling, our longing, our trust and devotion and joy for our teachers and for the lineage and towards just the true absolute nature of everything. And so, thought today, just reflect a little bit more, continuing with some thoughts and just reflections on the bodhicitta. And again, I'm here kind of talking, spokesperson, but each one of us, each one of you, we've all had some practice. We've all had some life. We've been so graced with receiving so many teachings, and we've contemplated them, we've practiced them. So of course, the Dharma is so vast, so rich. So just the spirit of my talking is also kind of honoring everyone's realizations and just wishing we all just connect more and more purely, more and more naturally, more and more authentically, joyfully with the true nature, with our relative bodhicitta, which will usher us to the absolute bodhicitta realization. And so when we're making our bodhicitta aspirations, one thing I thought to just reflect a little on is we say, from now until attaining the heart of enlightenment. No, that's our refuge, but from then too, we're going to complete the benefits and happiness of all sentient parent beings. So just thought, we just reminding the frame of how do we frame all the infinite mother sentient beings. And then also within bodhicitta, we've talked to some degree on our aspirational bodhicitta, but then also talk a little bit more on our actualizing bodhicitta. So, who are all these mother sentient parent beings? Like we said before in the teachings, the only difference between fully realized Buddha and ordinary sentient being is the degree to which we recognize the nature or not. And that means how caught up we are in the causes of samsara, the causes of suffering, which is what all sentient parent beings, because we're not recognizing the nature as it is, And due to that, we're caught up and carried away by our ego clinging, by our grasping and negative emotions, clinging to things as being solid, independent, permanent. And then so, while we all have the same beautiful, absolute, true nature of wisdom, love, compassion, which is absolute bodhicitta, we sentient beings haven't recognized that in different degrees. So who, as the objects of our boundless, equanimous bodhicitta, aspiring, connecting with the four boundless thoughts of all sentient beings having happiness in its causes, being free of suffering in its causes, never being separated from the ultimate happiness, which is completely free of suffering, all fulfillments, having great joy for all fulfillments, especially the ultimate. And then if everyone could be not so caught up in friends and enemies, hopes and fears, So we're going to actualize that. But all these beings, of course, we've heard, are none other than the Buddha classically had the 6 realms. So we've heard about suffering beings, but it's good to think about what are these 6 realms and what are their causes according to the teachings. And there's so many great texts, Words of My Perfect Teacher, for example, really goes through in detail some of the aspects of what beings encounter in the different realms. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that now, but just kind of briefly go over that, right? So what are the 6 realms? We'll start at the bottom and go to the top. So there's what's called the hell realms, which are inhabited by hell beings. There's the hungry ghost realms, and inhabited by the hungry ghosts, the yida. There's the animal realms, and all the animals. There's the human realm, and all the humans, the asuras, and the gods. So these are the 6 realms of beings. And then we've also heard in the teachings, right, there's the 3 realms. Do we know what the 3 realms are? So that's what's known as the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. And so how do the 6 classes of beings relate to those realms? So in the teachings, the Buddha said actually the gods are the only beings, only samsara beings who experience all 3 realms. The desire realm goes from all the hell realms, all the hungry ghost realms, all the human realms, and then a whole bunch of even the God realms exist in what's called the desire realm. And what is that? It's mostly perpetuated by desire. The form realms, only a certain section of the gods inhabit and experience. And those are perhaps just more perfect symmetries. The formless realms are again only the gods, the formless realms. These are just like it sounds. There's no form. It's kind of the result of just really attaining the ability to dwell and abide in the real formless samadhis or concentrations. So there's no experience really whatsoever, very subtle. But the main thing with all of these realms is right there. In the teachings, of course, we can apply it to our own experience. But all these realms, the Buddha taught, are as real as rainbows. That is to say, that the hell realm is just as real as this experience we're having right now, as well as all the other realms. And so then, there's suffering, and there's the causes of suffering. So just quickly going over that. In the hell realms, there's many sections of the hell realms. There's the hot hells, the cold hells, the kind of more ephemeral boundary hells. But essentially, the main suffering of the hell realms is just intense, unrelenting pain and fear of all kinds of ways, and being super sensitive physically and emotionally. And it said then too, what are the main causes of experience the hell realms? Is anger within all the poisons we all share, acting upon angry, hatred thoughts with our body, speech, and mind. When they're fully ripened is what we experience in the hell realms. The hungry ghost realms are just like it sounds. The sufferings of the hungry ghost is just never getting satisfaction, never having what you want, either due to the capacities of one's body and one's mind and perceptions, never at being able to attain something outside that we totally crave and need for our health and happiness, or feel we need for our health and happiness. So for example, having huge giant bodies with tiny mouths the size of pinholes, or always craving, being so thirsty and hungry, but when we get to the food or water, it makes us sick or it's evaporated. It's just like those kinds of situations. Then the animal realms, and the cause of suffering in the hungry ghosts is said is what? I think our greed and stinginess. The suffering of the animal realms is primarily a great degree of not knowing, of dullness, and being subject to being preyed upon and taken advantage of, your body used to sustain others or enslaved to help others, or being just, preyed upon. And the causes of being born in the animal realm are primarily what? It said kind of laziness, sleep, just indulging in sleepiness, laziness. The human realm. Now that's those three realms too. Again, maybe I'm saying things we all know, but again, the main point here is have the frame, but then to really look into those, think about those, read more about these things, contemplate them more, bring them into our practice, and here specifically our bodhicitta practice, which inhabits every aspect of our Ngondro. Bodhicitta. So these three lower realms, hell realms, hungry ghost realm, animal realm, what we talk about when we hear about the lower realms. Then there's what's known as the higher realms, which are the three other human, asura or demigod, and the god realms. So then again, in the nutshell, the humans, what are we humans, our main suffering? Yeah. Well, there's a lot of them. We can, of course, touch on all of these sufferings, but really the main suffering of humans is often doubt, hesitation, poverty mentality, birth, old age, sickness, death, busyness. The causes of being born human? I think a lot of good deeds. Because right out of all these realms, it's known as the most favorable. Because it's got a good balance of all these things. Then the asuras, the demigods, almost gods, their main suffering is being racked with jealousy and envy, right? Jealousy is sometimes too, I was looking at, jealousy can be, what's the difference between jealousy and envy? We can apply this to our own experience. Neither one of them is good. Usually jealousy, right? There's some sense of protecting something we have or think we have. Being jealous of losing it. Envy, however, we recognize we don't have it and we want it. And we're kind of hate those who have it. It's not a very happy place to be. And the asuras are full of jealousy. They're always at war with who? With the gods, who they can perceive some degree of the gods, and they want what those gods have. They're completely racked with envy and jealousy for what they have. And then the God realms. Of course, and then again, there's different levels that go even up into the form and formless. But the gods have very enjoyable experiences. Desire realm, formless realm. There's no suffering until the very end. So it said, the suffering of the gods is when all of their positive karma has ripened and been exhausted, and now the end of their life has come. So the God realms are very pleasant, but they're not liberation. So one's beautiful body begins to smell and sweat and age. One's beautiful blossoms, as far as this desire realm, start to fade. All of our friends run away. And then through our clairvoyance and our wider vision of relative truth, we also can perceive what's happening, kind of waking up from the spell of all of the wonderful life we've had and see how we've exhausted and where we're going due to our karmic, what our next karma is that will ripen, which because often it's said in the God realms it's exhausted, we then fall down to the lower realms. So the suffering of the gods is called falling down. The cause of being in the God realm is, sometimes they say, pride and arrogance. So we can look a lot more at those sufferings, but just beginning to just use those as little simple frames to really get specific and not have sentient beings just be abstract. Who's the object of compassion? All of us are. And so many others that we have no idea are there, but due to the omniscience and kindness of the Buddha, kind of introducing us to this view that there's more, there's just an ocean of samsara there, right? And samsara is a no-win situation. There's temporary comforts and relief in samsara, but no final resting place. It's like trying to find comfort on the head of a pin. So we aspire to generate our bodhicitta, to realize the absolute bodhicitta, the heart of enlightenment, the mind of enlightenment, our Buddha nature. in order to truly be a benefit to others. So we actualize that through what we call the 6 paramitas. And of course, they're so renowned. All of the relative actualizing bodhicitta path is all contained within the 6 paramitas. And then just 2 paramita, right, gets translated to transcendental, the transcendental perfections of generosity, transcendental perfection of morality, transcendental perfection of patience, transcendental perfection of joyful effort, transcendental perfection of concentration, transcendental perfection of wisdom. But that transcendental, I think the main thing to really connect with in our mind and heart is it's transcendental because we're not so caught up in ourselves. We're really trying to upturn the cause of suffering for ourselves and others, which is what? It all comes back to our ignorance of how things are, and more fundamentally, our being caught up with our grasping and to negative emotions. All the causes of the 6 realms, and upturning them through those things. So, one thing too, just to remember, as we're doing our bodhicitta section of the Ngondro, we're making our bodhicitta vow in that one section, but keeping bodhicitta, the supreme bodhicitta, it's the heart of all the Dharma. It's without it, where would we be? We'd have no Buddha. We'd have no teachings. That show us the way to our own nature. So from now until samsara becomes empty, I shall accomplish the benefits and happiness of all sentient parent beings. So that is, in essence, is right, perfecting the 6 paramitas, which is turning our ego. So one thing just to remember is this renowned practice of Tonglen is also really getting to that heart of Tonglen, exchanging our own happiness, giving away all of our happiness, receiving all the suffering of others. Because, right, that's kind of the opposite of what we're inclined to do. So, like, practicing Tonglen as we're doing our bodhicitta practice is one thing we can do. And so, there's different ways of doing the Tonglen practice. One really classic way is we're riding the breath. So as we exhale, we're giving away all happiness. And we can see that as like bright light just going out, pervading all these vast realms of samsara, going to every single individual being who's a whole universe. And then as we breathe in, we're absorbing all the suffering and the causes of suffering of every single one of those infinite sentient beings. And sometimes they say, picturing that as just like, just black mass. We're just inhaling it all, and then exhaling just all the virtues we have, all of the happiness we've had in this and all our lives, giving that to all beings, absorbing. And then Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche had a beautiful description too, that's like picturing all these beings kind of lost in the fog, in the mist, and it's like it just evaporates and they're in the pure, clear sight. I'm going to absorb that. And then really taking in that suffering, see what that's like. But another aspect of that, we can really kind of connect, but look to that suffering, look to where it is, how it is, where is it, applying those instructions. But also we can then also just picture, it's almost like our bodhicitta is like a vast infinite sun. So as we're exhaling that light, that grace, that joy, freedom, peace, all the good qualities, all the fulfillments, temporary and ultimate, just awakening, and all the confusion just evaporating from all the minds and hearts of every single living being. And then we're absorbing all of that black mass of suffering and its causes. But then too, letting that just be like a drop of rain on the face of the sun as far as our emptiness awareness. Just using that visualization too. Taking on all the illusory suffering. And then there's other forms of, we can expand just as the pure light, but also they say too, something in the teaching, picture ourselves, we just visualize ourselves as a wish-fulfilling jewel, with the crown ornaments, just able to fulfill all the wishes of every single being. And put in that skillful means of the bodhicitta, which means every wish is fulfilled that only connects beings with true happiness and peace. Or emanate as many bodies as we can into every realm, bringing peace and protection, and exchanging that way. Or we can just totally use our imagination. Like Shantideva says, let me be a bridge, a boat, a medicine. Just really use our imagination to actualize our bodhicitta. Think about, for example, like going and giving protection to all of the beings who are being, preyed upon or attacked, giving them perfect protection, or emanating as the perfect medicine for all incurable diseases and all sickness, just appearing in the lives of beings, really being the true medicine to bring healing, even though it's temporary. But again, through our bodhicitta, that means we're connecting all beings with liberation. Emanating to free all of the beings enslaved and ensnared by their own self-cast spells, or being, imprisoned or captured in any way. Being free, but free in the best of ways. So it goes on, but just really using, thinking about, as we're doing our bodhicitta practice, using some of these instructions we've received on just kind of Tonglen, or kind of actualizing our bodhicitta. Then of course, that's within the frame of our Ngondro practice itself. But keeping that spirit of loving kindness, that's what it all boils down to. Openness, an open mind, an open heart. Trying to be appropriate as we're in the world, just keeping our bodhicitta commitment there, and looking to when we start to lose it, finding that boundary point between when we lose our mindfulness and our alertness and our conscientiousness, when we start to space out and get caught up in our negative emotions. Being aware of that place and not letting it take us as much as our practice. So that's enough talking. Now we'll just do our practice. So the main point, bodhicitta, the heart of enlightenment. It's the source of all the Dharma. It's our very true nature. It's on the absolute level. Bodhicitta is our Buddha nature. And we're purifying. We're removing our obscurations and their causes, bringing out our bodhicitta, generating our bodhicitta through the beautiful, skillful means of our relative bodhicitta, our aspiration, and our actualizing. And it's not going to be perfect when we start, but that's the path. But keeping with it, keeping our courage, our commitment, means our joy, our devotion, really mingling our mind with the mind of enlightenment, with the Guru, listening to our wisdom, letting ourselves rest in just no thought. And the no thought bodhicitta too. When we're really connecting with our bodhicitta, it said it's one of the benefits. It's pervading us at all times. We can use our imagination and engage with our intellect, with bodhicitta motivation, but also really having it be heartfelt and just an atmosphere that's pervading. It begins to be inseparable from our renunciation. It becomes inseparable from our devotion. They're all mingled. So, we'll do our practice now. We'll just rest for a few moments in silence, and then we'll begin our Ngondro.